Did your kids ever just keep pushing you and pushing you? It's like they're not going to quit until you finally get angry and do something about it. Well, that's exactly what's happening. Welcome to the No Perfect Parent podcast, and thanks for taking a couple of minutes to let me share with you some of the tips I learned on my parenting journey. I was principal of a Christian school, and he was a first-year teacher, and he was going to be in charge of our middle school. Well, now, even though we had good kids at the school, middle schoolers have been known to reduce a grown man to tears. I knew I needed to prepare him with some basic rules for surviving teenagers. And the first 6 weeks went great. But into the 8th week, he came into my office frustrated. I don't know what happened. I've lost control. The kids just don't respond to me like they used to. Now, before I tell you what happened and the wisdom that I shared with him, let me tell you where I got that little bit of wisdom that enabled him to regain control of his classroom. Researchers worked with young children at a school, and for the first semester of the year, the school had no fence around the playground. When the children were out for recess, they would stay close to the building, only venturing a little way onto the playground. Now, during the second semester, they installed a fence all the way around the playground. Nothing else changed, but immediately the children began to move out and use the entire playground. Without boundaries, they felt insecure and they huddled together for safety. Knowing their limits, though, having a fence out there provided a sense of security and safety that actually encouraged the children to venture out more. Now, in the same way, when we set limits on our children, it provides a sense of security for them. Unrestrained children intuitively sense that they are unprotected, they are vulnerable. At the first of the year, my teacher friend closely adhered to the rules. Violate a rule and you knew what would happen. No exceptions. The kids knew there were boundaries, they knew where they were, and they felt secure within those fences. But the kids were behaving so well that he began to cut them some slack. You know how it goes. You look the other way, you don't strictly enforce the rules, you act like you didn't see that or hear that. After all, they were good kids, but without knowing it, he had thrown their world into chaos by removing the fence. Think of rules like an invisible electric fence. The children feel free to wander the entire playground because they feel secure within the fence. Now, if they touch the fence, they get a shock. Consequences for going too far. But they feel secure because they know where that fence is and what will happen if they touch it. So they can actually avoid it and have plenty of space to play. But if we fail to enforce the rules, in other words, if they cross the boundary, they touch the fence and nothing happens, it leaves them wondering, where's the new fence line? Are there real boundaries? Or am I totally unprotected? Where are those new boundaries? Now, the only way they can find out if there's still a fence around them, if they're still secure, if they're still protected, is to keep pushing until they feel that shock, until consequences come. Warnings don't do it. That doesn't tell them where the fence is. Threats don't do it. That doesn't tell them where the fence is. Only the shock of the fence says, yes, you're still secure. There are still very real, though invisible, boundaries protecting you. By not enforcing the rules, my friend was actually causing the children to have to push and push until he finally took action. They needed to know where the boundaries were, the real boundaries, not just the things we tell them, but where are the real boundaries? Where do the consequences kick in? We all feel more secure when we know what's expected of us and what will happen if we go too far. When we're inconsistent or fail to enforce rules, we actually force our children to keep pushing and pushing until they feel that zzz, that sting of the fence, which tells them where the real boundaries are. They need to know someone cares enough to set protective boundaries and enforce those boundaries. My friend went back to the students, as I suggested, and he apologized for not enforcing the rules consistently. And he let them know that from here on out, even though they were good kids, if they touched the fence, they'd feel the shock of the consequences for breaking the rules. Order returned, and he could then enjoy being with them because they felt secure. They felt assured that someone loved them enough to make and enforce protective boundaries. Hey, if you enjoy these short podcasts, Take a moment to share them with someone who you know would benefit from them, and subscribe below so that you get each new update. Remember, God only loans us children. He expects us to give them back.